The phone rang just after sunset, when the house felt its quietest. Daniel was rinsing a cup in the sink, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, trying not to think about the empty chair across the table. He almost let the call go to voicemail. When he saw the name, he paused. Evelyn, his mother-in-law. He wiped his hands and answered. Her voice was steady, careful, like someone balancing a glass too full. She said the kitchen sink was leaking again. Nothing serious. A loose pipe, she thought. She apologized for calling so late and said she would understand if he was busy. Daniel said he could come by. The words left his mouth before he could weigh them. He told himself it was only a repair, a simple task. He hung up and stared at the wall, feeling the old pull of memory. He grabbed his toolbox and keys and stepped outside. The air was cool, sharp, and clean. As he drove, streetlights slid past like slow thoughts. He kept his eyes on the road. He didn't let his mind wander to the years when this drive meant dinner, laughter, and shared plans. He didn't let himself remember the last time he left that house, after the funeral, and silence had pressed against him like a weight. Evelyn's house stood quiet at the end of the street. The porch light was on, warm and yellow. Daniel parked and sat for a moment, breathing. He told himself again, fix the leak, say goodbye, go home. He knocked out Evelyn, opened the door with a small smile. She looked older than he remembered, thinner but calm. Her hair was pulled back, neat as always. She stepped aside to let him in. The house smelled clean with a hint of tea. Everything was in its place, almost too careful. It's like a space kept ready for someone who might never arrive. She led him to the kitchen. Water had pooled under the sink, shining on the tiles. Daniel knelt, opened the cabinet, and went to work. The pipe was loose, just as she said. He tightened it, replaced a worn ring, and tested the flow. The leak stopped. The job took minutes. When he stood, Evelyn handed him a towel. Their hands didn't touch. She thanked him, then asked if he would like tea. He hesitated, then nodded. They sat at the small table by the window. Outside, night settled in. Inside, the clock ticked. They talked lightly at first. She mentioned the garden. He asked about her neighbor. The words moved fast, easy, like stepping stones across a stream. Then there was a pause. Not awkward, just quiet. Evelyn looked at the cup in her hands. She said the house had been louder lately, even though she lived alone. Daniel didn't understand at first. She explained that silence had a sound. It pressed in at night. It filled rooms. He nodded. He understood that sound well. He felt it every morning when he woke and every evening when he came home. Evelyn said she had almost called a plumber, but thought of Daniel instead. She said she didn't want to bother him. He said it was fine. He meant it. Being here felt strange, but not wrong. It felt like standing near a door he had closed too fast. She asked how he was doing. He answered honestly, but briefly. He said work was steady. Days passed. Nights were long. He didn't add more. He didn't need to. Her eyes showed she heard the rest. A car passed outside. The clock ticked again. Daniel finished his tea and stood. He said he should go. Evelyn rose too. She walked him to the door and thanked him once more. This time, her voice softened. She said it meant a lot that he came. Daniel stepped onto the porch. The night air wrapped around him. He turned back to say goodbye. Evelyn stood in the doorway, the porch light framing her face. For a second, neither moved. It wasn't longing. It wasn't desire. It was recognition. Two people standing on the same ground of loss, seeing each other clearly. Daniel nodded and left. As he drove away, his chest felt lighter and heavier at the same time. He told himself again that it was only a repair. But the road felt different. The night felt awake, and somewhere between the porch light and the passing streetlights, he knew something had shifted, even if he didn't yet know what it meant. Daniel did not expect the second visit to happen so soon. 2 days after fixing the sink, Evelyn called again. Her voice sounded normal, almost casual. She said the cabinet door under the sink felt loose. It was probably nothing. Daniel agreed to come by after work. He didn't stop to ask why such a small thing mattered. He already knew he would go. The drive felt shorter this time. He noticed things he had ignored before: the trees along the road, the corner shop, the quiet order of the street. When he parked, the porch light was already on. Evelyn opened the door before he knocked. She smiled, quick and polite, then stepped back to let him in. The cabinet hinge was worn. Daniel tightened the screws and tested the door. It held firm. He stood and dusted off his hands. Evelyn clapped softly, as if the task were bigger than it was. She asked if he had time for tea. He said yes, without thinking. They sat in the living room this time. The furniture was neat, but the room felt lived in. A folded blanket rested on the arm of the sofa. A framed photo sat on the shelf, turned slightly away. Daniel didn't look at it for long. Evelyn poured the tea and sat across from him. She asked about his work. He answered simply. She listened closely, nodding, asking short questions that showed she cared. He found himself talking faster than usual, as if the words had been waiting. She spoke next. She said her days were quiet. She woke early, kept busy, and slept late. She said the evenings were the hardest. The walls seemed to lean in then. Daniel understood. He told her nights were difficult for him too. Sleep came and went without warning. They didn't speak about Sarah by name, but she was there in every pause. In the way Evelyn touched the edge of her cup. In the way Daniel sat forward, elbows on his knees, ready to move if needed. Their shared loss sat between them, heavy but familiar. Evelyn stood and went to the window. She looked out at the street. She said she had stopped asking friends to visit. Everyone had their own lives. She didn't want to be a burden. Daniel said she wasn't. The word came out firm. She turned and studied him for a moment, then nodded. The clock chimed softly. Daniel realized how late it was. He stood and said he should go. Evelyn didn't rush him this time. She walked with him to the door and paused. She said she was glad he came back. She said the house felt warmer when someone else was in it. Daniel stepped outside, then turned. He said she could call any time. For repairs, he added quickly. Evelyn smiled, knowing the meaning behind the words, and thanked him. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He replayed the conversation, not for what was said, but for what wasn't. He felt no guilt, only confusion. He told himself he was allowed to talk, to listen, to be human. Still, something tugged at him the next week. Evelyn called again. This time, she didn't mention repairs. She said she had made too much soup and asked if he wanted some. Daniel hesitated, then agreed. He arrived to find the table set for two. The soup was simple and warm. They ate quietly at first, then talked. The pace felt easy. Natural. Evelyn laughed at something he said, a real laugh that surprised them both. Daniel smiled before he could stop himself. The moment passed, light and brief, but it stayed with him. After dinner, Daniel helped clean up. They worked side by side, careful not to crowd each other. When the dishes were done, Evelyn leaned against the counter and sighed. She said she missed talking to someone who understood. Daniel said he did too. The words hung there, clear and honest. Daniel felt a line forming in his mind, sharp and bright. He knew it was there for a reason. He stepped back slightly and said he should head home. Evelyn nodded. She didn't argue. At the door, she thanked him again. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tired. Daniel wanted to say more, but he didn't. He left with a quiet promise to himself to be careful. Over the next days, they kept in touch. Short calls. Simple messages. Nothing crossed the line. Still, the pull grew. Not from desire, but from comfort. From being seen. From the relief of not feeling alone. Daniel noticed the change in himself. He cooked real meals again. He slept better. He felt present. That frightened him. He wondered if healing always felt like danger at first. One evening, Evelyn called and asked him to come over. She said she needed help moving a chair. Daniel arrived to find the chair already moved. They stood in the living room, both knowing the truth. Evelyn spoke first. She said she didn't want confusion. She valued his presence, but she feared misreading it. Daniel listened carefully. He said he felt the same. He said he respected her and the memory they shared. He said they needed clarity. Evelyn nodded, relieved. She said honesty mattered more than comfort. They agreed to slow down, to keep things simple, to support each other without crossing lines they couldn't uncross. The decision felt heavy, but right down when Daniel left that night, he felt steadier. The pull was still there, but it no longer controlled him. He knew the next step would matter. And as he drove away, he understood that the hardest repairs were never the ones you could fix with tools. Daniel woke before his alarm, the gray light of morning slipping through the curtains. His mind felt clear in a way it hadn't for a long time. The agreement he and Evelyn had made still sat with him, firm and steady. It didn't erase the pull between them, but it gave it shape. He got dressed, ate a simple breakfast, and left for work with a sense of direction he had been missing. Days passed without calls. Not from distance, but from respect. Daniel focused on routine. He fixed things, solved problems, finished tasks. In the quiet spaces between, he noticed a change. The ache was softer. The world felt wider. Healing, he realized, was not loud. It moved quietly like a tide. On Friday evening, Evelyn called. Her voice was calm. She said she was hosting a small gathering at the community center to raise funds for repairs. She asked if he could help set up chairs and lights. Daniel agreed. The request felt safe, shared, public. When he arrived, the hall was bright with movement. Neighbors talked and laughed. Music played softly. Evelyn stood near the stage, giving instructions with a clipboard in hand. She looked confident, alive in a way he hadn't seen before. When she noticed him, she smiled and waved him over. They worked side by side, moving chairs, testing cords, adjusting curtains. Their words were practical, quick, easy. The space between them felt right. As people arrived, Daniel stepped back. He watched Evelyn greet guests, listen, laugh, thank them. He saw her strength clearly now. Not as a mother-in-law, not as a figure from his past, but as a full person with her own life. The thought settled him. Later, when the room was full and warm, Evelyn joined him near the back. She asked if he was doing well. He said yes and meant it. He asked the same. She nodded and said she felt useful again. That mattered to her. Daniel understood. Purpose healed in ways time could not. After the event ended, they stayed to clean up. The hall emptied slowly. Chairs stacked. Lights dimmed. When the last door closed, silence returned, gentle and earned. Evelyn sat on a chair and sighed. Daniel sat across from her. They shared water and quiet. Evelyn spoke first. She said she had thought a lot about their talks. She said she valued the support, but more than that, she valued the honesty they had chosen. She said it helped her breathe. Daniel listened closely. He said the same. He said boundaries didn't weaken connection. They strengthened it. They stood and finished cleaning. Outside, the night was cool and calm. Daniel offered to walk her to her car. She accepted. Under the streetlight, she paused and thanked him. Not for help, but for respect. Daniel nodded. He felt proud, not conflicted. Weeks went by. Their contact became steady and balanced. Calls about events. Messages about books. Shared advice. Nothing rushed. Nothing hidden. Daniel noticed how his grief had changed. It no longer trapped him. It reminded him. Love, he learned, did not demand replacement. It asked for care. One afternoon, Daniel received a call from his supervisor about a job in another town. A good opportunity. More responsibility. A fresh start. He thought about it all day. That evening, he told Evelyn. They met at a cafe, neutral and open. She listened carefully and said she was happy for him. Her smile was real, even if her eyes showed sadness. Daniel said he was nervous. Starting over meant leaving behind the familiar. Evelyn said growth always asked for courage. She said he had more than he knew. Her confidence steadied him. He decided to accept the job. On his last weekend in town, Daniel stopped by Evelyn's house to say goodbye. No repairs. No excuses. Just a visit. The house felt lighter now. Windows open. Fresh flowers on the table. They sat and talked about plans, books, travel dreams that waited. Evelyn walked him to the door. She said she was glad he was moving forward. She said she would be fine. Daniel believed her. He thanked her for reminding him how to live with care. They shared a brief, respectful hug. Nothing more. Nothing needed. As Daniel drove away, the road opened ahead of him. He felt ready. The past remained part of him, but it no longer held him still. He carried lessons instead of weight. Months later, Daniel returned for a short visit. He attended another event at the community center. Evelyn was there leading a new project. They greeted each other warmly. The ease between them told the full story. Two lives connected by loss, strengthened by choice, moving forward with clarity. The repair had been small. The change had been lasting.